The sun had barely crested over the horizon, washing the town of Bitter Creek in a dusty orange glow. It was a place where dreams dried up quicker than rainwater and where guns spoke louder than words. Jed Callahan rode in that morning, his bay mare lathered with sweat, his jaw tight from the long ride through the marshes south of town. Jed was a man with a past he didn't talk about, wanted in 3 territories for a crime he didn't commit, and unable to settle anywhere longer than a month. But today, his restlessness had a purpose. He was looking for the woman he had once saved on a night he could never forget. 6 months ago, on a fog-draped night deep in the Blackwater Swamp, Jed had found her, half-drowned, shivering, and tied to a rotting log like an animal left for the gators. Her name was Lyra. She had an unearthly beauty that made men stop in their tracks and women whisper with envy. Her pale, luminous skin seemed to catch the moonlight in a way no human should. People in the nearest shanty town had whispered she was otherworldly, and some swore she had fallen from the sky. Jed didn't care what she was. He only cared that she'd clung to him like life itself that night, and for the first time in years he'd felt needed. But he had left her hidden in the care of an old trapper in the swamp, believing she'd be safer away from Bitter Creek's cruelty. Now, the rumors had reached him. Men were hunting her. Men who'd seen her as a prize, either to sell, marry, or cage. Jed had spent his life running from trouble, but the thought of Lyra in chains was enough to drive him straight into hell. Jed found her where he feared she'd be, alone, huddled on the small wooden skiff they had used months ago to escape a gang of bounty hunters. The swamp around them was alive with its usual symphony. Croaking frogs, distant coyote yips, and the slow churn of unseen predators in the black water. Spanish moss hung like funeral veils from the cypress trees. Lyra's eyes met his as he pushed through the reeds. They were wide, iridescent, and filled with both relief and reproach. "You left me," she whispered, her voice melodic but trembling. "I thought it was for the best," Jed said, climbing aboard the rickety skiff. He felt the wood sink under his boots. "I thought you'd be safe. But now they're coming for you." Her gaze darted to the shadows beyond his shoulder. "I know. They've been circling for days. Men in boats. They carry guns and torches. They call me a witch." Jed's heart twisted. She was no witch, but in a land this cruel, difference was often a death sentence. Just then, a gunshot cracked through the damp air, splintering a nearby tree trunk. Lyra flinched, and Jed's instincts took over. He shoved the skiff off into the black current. "Hold on," he said, gripping the oar. "This swamp's about to turn deadly." The men came fast, 2 flat-bottomed boats gliding through the reeds, lanterns swinging, rifles aimed. Jed recognized one of them. Brant Calder, a bounty hunter he'd crossed paths with before. "Callahan!" Brant bellowed. "You hand over that swamp witch, and maybe we let you live." Jed's gut tightened. He wasn't afraid for himself. He'd faced death more times than he could count, but Lyra's trembling hand on his arm made something in him steel hard. "She's under my protection," Jed shouted back. Brant's laughter was like gravel. "Then you're a dead man." The swamp became a battleground. Bullets tore through water and reeds. Jed rowed hard, maneuvering the skiff into the twisting channels he knew well. Lyra crouched low, whispering prayers in a language he didn't know, her fingers gripping his coat as though he were the only solid thing in her universe. They rounded a bend and nearly crashed into a wall of fallen logs. Trapped. Behind them, Brant's boat closed in, and Jed saw the muzzle flash of a rifle. A bullet ripped through the edge of the skiff, sending splinters into Jed's hand. He swore under his breath. "We're sitting ducks here." Lyra touched his face, her otherworldly calm cutting through his panic. "Trust me," she said. "Water is my friend." Before he could ask what she meant, she plunged one hand into the swamp water. A strange hum filled the air, and the current around them shifted violently. The skiff lurched forward, sliding free of the logjam like an invisible hand had pushed it. Jed blinked, stunned, but there was no time for questions. He rode like a man possessed until the swamp opened into a moonlit clearing of black water. They were free for the moment, but the danger wasn't over. He could hear Brant's voice echoing through the cypress. "You can't hide her forever, Callahan. The world don't want her kind." Lyra's head bowed. "He's right. Wherever I go, they'll follow. I bring only danger to those who care for me." Jed reached across the skiff and lifted her chin so she'd meet his eyes. "Listen to me. I've run from a lot of things in my life. But I ain't running from you. Not ever again." Her breath caught. In that moment, despite the gunfire, the muck, and the death circling them, their souls touched. Climax. They reached the far edge of the swamp by dawn, but Brant wasn't done. He ambushed them as they pulled the skiff ashore, stepping from behind a cypress with his rifle raised. "Game's over," Brant snarled. "Step aside, Callahan. She's worth more than gold." Jed slowly reached for his own gun. His voice was calm. "If you want her, you'll have to put me in the ground." Brant smirked. "I can manage that." The standoff was silent except for the hum of insects. Lyra stood behind Jed, her hand hovering near his back. When Brant squeezed the trigger, the world slowed. Jed dove, firing in the same heartbeat. His bullet struck Brant in the shoulder, sending him spinning into the mud. The rifle discharged harmlessly into the sky. Brant cursed, clutching his wound, as Jed strode over, gun still aimed. "You come near her again," Jed said coldly, "and the swamp'll be your grave." Brant spat and limped away, his men retreating behind him. Ending. Exhausted, Jed and Lyra walked until the swamp gave way to the open prairie. The first rays of sun painted her pale skin in gold, and for the first time since he'd met her, she smiled without fear. "What now?" she asked softly. Jed took her hand, rough cowboy meeting delicate otherworld. "Now we find somewhere they can't touch us. A place where the past can't follow. And if the world comes again." He brushed a strand of damp hair from her cheek. "Then the world'll have to fight both of us." As the prairie wind rose, carrying the scent of freedom, Jed realized he'd finally found something worth standing still for. A love born in the darkest swamp, tempered by danger, and bright as a frontier sunrise.